Life is full of struggles, moments of anger, grief, uncertainty, and pain that none of us can escape. We lose people we love, we face disappointments we didn't expect, and sometimes the world feels unfair. In those moments, it's easy to feel lost, overwhelmed, or trapped inside our own suffering. But what if wisdom has already been waiting for us, hidden inside simple, timeless stories? For thousands of years, Buddhist teachings have been passed down not through heavy philosophy, but through short parables, like seeds of truth planted in everyday life. These stories don't ask us to escape reality. They don't promise a life without pain. Instead, they show us how to carry pain differently, how to face loss with compassion, how to sit with uncertainty, how to let go of anger before it poisons us. In the next moments, we'll dive into some of these powerful stories. And as we listen, the real question is not just what the story means, but how it speaks to our own lives today. Story 1, The Empty Boat. A man was rowing his boat down a calm, quiet river. The water was still, the sunlight gentle, and he felt at peace. Suddenly, another boat drifted toward him and collided hard against his. Anger flared up instantly. He shouted, cursed, and prepared to lash out at the careless person steering it. But when he looked closely, he realized the boat was completely empty. There was no one inside. And just like that, his anger vanished. The story seems simple, but it mirrors our everyday mind. How often have we gotten angry, defensive, or hurt, convinced that someone was intentionally offending us? A curt message, a cold glance, a late reply, and our mind spins stories. They don't respect me. They're trying to insult me. They don't care about me. From those assumptions, anger is born. But in reality, many of those boats are empty. The other person wasn't attacking us. They were tired, distracted, or struggling with their own burden. Practicing to see the empty boat in daily life means pausing before reacting. When someone cuts us off in traffic, when a colleague sends a blunt email, when a loved one seems distant, we can ask, what if this is just an empty boat? That question alone can soften anger and make space for compassion. I've fallen into this trap many times myself. I remember a close friend missing my birthday and not sending even a short message. I was furious, convinced I wasn't important to them. Later, I learned they had been at the hospital all night with their mother. In that moment, I felt ashamed. My anger had been meaningless. The boat had been empty all along. If we can train ourselves to see life's collisions as empty boats, our days will feel lighter. Anger will no longer be a reflex, but a choice. And when we choose not to be angry, we choose peace. Story 2, The Monk and the Two Tigers. A monk was walking in the forest when he suddenly came face to face with a fierce tiger. Terrified, he ran, with the tiger chasing close behind. He reached the edge of a cliff, only to find another tiger waiting below. One behind, one ahead, death seemed inevitable. Grasping at a vine, he hung suspended between the two. Then, as he dangled, he noticed a ripe, red strawberry growing nearby. He reached out, plucked it, tasted it, and smiled. Ah, how sweet it is! At first, the story sounds absurd. How could someone facing death calmly eat a strawberry? But that's exactly the point. The monk knew life is fragile, and death can come at any moment. So why not savor the sweetness of the present moment while it's still here? In our lives, the two tigers might be illness, financial stress, or pressures we cannot escape. And too often, we let fear of the future consume us. What will happen tomorrow? Will I survive this? What if everything falls apart? In our worry, we forget the strawberries at hand. A warm meal, a child's laughter, the quiet beauty of the evening sky. I remember waiting for the results of a major medical procedure. For days, I was consumed by fear, imagining the worst. Meals lost their taste. Conversations felt meaningless. Then a friend gently reminded me, why not enjoy the strawberry that's right here? The future hasn't come yet, but the present is still alive. Those words shifted everything. I began noticing again the smell of morning coffee, the warmth of sunlight, the songs of birds. Regardless of what happened next, those days became beautiful instead of wasted in dread. The monk story teaches us that true life is only touched in the present. The future may hold tigers, but if our eyes never leave them, we miss the sweetness of strawberries life quietly offers us right now. Story 3. The Two Arrows. The Buddha once said, when someone is struck by an arrow, that is the first pain, physical and unavoidable. But most of us then shoot ourselves with a second arrow. That second arrow is the mind. Why me? This is unfair. I can't handle this. My life is ruined. And so the suffering doubles. For example, when we fall sick, that's the first arrow. But when we start telling ourselves, I'm worthless now, I'll lose everything, nobody will want me, that's the second arrow. The illness causes pain, but it is our thoughts that destroy us. This is so common, it's almost invisible. I once went through a crisis after losing my job. The initial shock was the first arrow, but then I pierced myself over and over. I'm a failure. I'll never succeed. My future is over. For weeks, I was drowning not because of unemployment itself, but because of the arrows I kept shooting at myself. Only when I recognized this did I begin to heal. The first arrow cannot be avoided, but the second arrow is optional. This is the essence of mindfulness practice. To see the first arrow clearly, but not add the second. When pain arises, simply acknowledge, this is pain. It will pass. No judgment, no labels, no self-blame. Think about it. How many times a day do you shoot the second arrow at yourself? A small criticism ruins your whole mood. A minor mistake turns into hours of self-hatred. If we can notice and let go of the second arrow, our suffering will be cut in half instantly. All three stories, the empty boat, the sweet strawberry, and the two arrows, point to one truth. Most of our suffering does not come from the world itself, but from our reaction to it. If we can pause, breathe, and see things with awareness, then anger softens, fear loosens, and pain becomes lighter. Story 4. Kisa Gotami and the Mustard Seed. Kisa Gotami was a young mother who adored her only child. When her son suddenly died, her world collapsed. She carried the lifeless body through the streets, begging anyone, healers, neighbors, strangers, to give her medicine that could bring him back. People pitied her, but no one could help. Finally, she went to the Buddha. He listened with great compassion and told her, yes, there is a way. Bring me a single mustard seed from a household that has never known death. Her heart lifted. She rushed from house to house. Everywhere, people were willing to give her mustard seeds. But when she asked, has anyone died here? The answer was always the same. Yes, my father, my mother, my sister, my child. By evening, she had knocked on every door. She had a basket full of seeds, but none from a house untouched by death. At last, she understood. She returned to the Buddha, not with medicine, but with wisdom. Death had touched every family. Her grief, though heavy, was not unique. It was part of the human condition. This story is not just about death. It is about the isolation of suffering. When something terrible happens, we feel singled out, Why me? Why my family? Yet the truth is, no one escapes loss. To remember this is not to dismiss our grief, but to soften it. When we realize pain is universal, we begin to see that we are not cursed, not alone. We are human. Think of how healing it feels when someone says, "I've been through that too." It doesn't remove the pain, but it changes the way we carry it. Instead of being crushed, we feel held by the shared experience of countless others. Kisa Gotami's story is a reminder that suffering is not a punishment, but a thread that connects us to the whole of humanity. Story 5. The Farmer and His Horse. Once there was a farmer whose horse ran away. His neighbors shook their heads. "What terrible luck!" But the farmer only said, "Maybe." A week later, the horse returned, bringing several wild horses with it. The neighbors cried out, "What wonderful luck!" The farmer said, "Maybe." Soon after, the farmer's son tried to ride one of the wild horses, but fell and broke his leg. The neighbor sighed, "What terrible luck!" Again the farmer said, "Maybe." Then war broke out. Every young man in the village was forced to join the army, except the farmer's son, who was spared because of his broken leg. The neighbors exclaimed, "What incredible luck!" And once more, the farmer only replied, "Maybe." The wisdom of this story lies in its quiet refusal to rush into judgment. We are so quick to label events as good or bad, but the truth is, outcomes are rarely final. What looks like disaster today may become blessing tomorrow. What looks like fortune today may turn into hardship later. In our own lives, we have all had moments like this. A job we desperately wanted but didn't get. Later we discover it would have made us miserable. A breakup that shattered us. Later we see it open the way for a healthier relationship. Even illness, loss, or failure can sometimes become the ground from which growth arises. The farmer's calm maybe is not indifference. It is wisdom. It says, "I do not know where this road leads, so I will not cling too tightly to labels. I will wait and see." Imagine how peaceful life would feel if we could carry more of that spirit. Story 6. The Angry Man and the Buddha. One day, a man, furious with the Buddha's growing influence, approached him and unleashed a storm of insults. He mocked him, cursed him, and tried to provoke him. The Buddha, however, remained serene. He asked the man a simple question. If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? The man replied, "It remains with the giver." "Exactly," said the Buddha. "In the same way, if I do not accept your anger, it remains with you." The man was stunned into silence. This parable offers a profound lesson about the nature of anger. Too often, when someone throws anger at us, we instinctively catch it, hold it, and let it burn us. We walk away replaying the words, feeling wounded, humiliated, or vengeful. But the Buddha reminds us, anger is only destructive if we choose to receive it. If we don't pick it up, it cannot hurt us. Think of all the times someone has shouted at you in traffic or left a nasty comment online. Hours later, you're still fuming, while they've already moved on. That is us choosing to accept the gift. But what if, like the Buddha, we simply let it drop? The insult would return to the sender, and we would walk away in peace. Of course, this is not easy. It requires mindfulness and self-control. But even a small practice, pausing before reacting, taking a breath, reminding ourselves, "I don't have to take this in," can save us from endless suffering. Story 7. The Unaccepted Gift. Closely related is another teaching. The parable of the unaccepted gift. Imagine someone trying to hand you a package of rotten food. If you refuse to take it, the package remains theirs. In the same way, when people try to hand us hatred, insults, or negativity, we always have a choice, to take it or to leave it. This is more than a metaphor. In everyday life, people constantly offer us gifts we don't need. Criticism disguised as advice, gossip disguised as concern, judgment disguised as truth. We don't control what they offer, but we do control whether we receive it. I once had a mentor who told me, not every package that lands at your doorstep must be opened. Those words have stayed with me. When I see a cruel comment online or hear someone speaking ill of me, I imagine it as a package. I ask myself, do I really want to open this? Do I want to carry it inside my house? Most of the time, the answer is no. And just like that, the weight disappears. Together, these 4 stories weave a deep truth. Suffering is universal. Outcomes are uncertain. And our response is always within our power. Kisa, Gotami shows us we are not alone in grief. The farmer teaches us not to cling too quickly to judgment. The Buddha shows us how to let anger return to its source. And the unaccepted gift reminds us that not every burden offered to us must be carried. If we could live with these lessons in our hearts, life would still bring pain, loss, and conflict, but we would carry them differently, with more wisdom and less weight. Story 8. The 2 Wolves. A wise elder once told a grandson, inside every person there are 2 wolves. One wolf is anger, envy, greed, arrogance, and fear. The other is kindness, compassion, humility, generosity, and peace. They are constantly fighting each other. The boy thought for a moment and asked, which wolf wins? The elder smiled, the one you feed. This story is simple, but it speaks to a universal truth about the human mind. Every day, we are feeding one wolf or the other, through our thoughts, our words, and our actions. When we dwell on resentment, jealousy, or comparison, we are feeding the dark wolf. When we practice gratitude, patience, and kindness, we are feeding the bright wolf. The question is not whether we have darkness in us. We all do. The question is, which wolf am I feeding today? Think of social media. For example, if we constantly compare ourselves to others, scrolling with envy or judgment, we feed the wolf of dissatisfaction. But if we use the same space to celebrate others, to learn, or to spread kindness, we feed the wolf of compassion. The platform is neutral. It depends on what we feed. The beauty of this story is that it gives us responsibility and power. We are not helpless victims of our emotions. We are the caretakers of our wolves. Every choice, no matter how small, tips the balance. Story 9. Carrying the woman across the river. 2 monks were walking together when they came upon a riverbank. A young woman stood there, unable to cross. She asked for help. One monk quickly lifted her onto his back, carried her across the river, and set her down safely on the other side. Then the monks continued their journey. Hours later, the second monk burst out angrily. "We are monks. We took vows not to touch women. How could you carry her like that?" The first monk replied calmly, "I set her down at the riverbank hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" This story reveals the weight of unnecessary burdens. How often do we hold on to something long after the moment has passed? A careless word, a mistake, an old wound. We replay it again and again, carrying it like a heavy stone, while the other person may have already moved on. The teaching here is about letting go. To live in the present means to set things down when they no longer serve us. Carrying them in our minds only poisons us. I once heard a phrase, resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. When we refuse to forgive, when we cling to grudges, we are the ones who suffer. The monk reminds us, put it down, cross the river, move forward. Story 10, the bamboo and the oak. In a storm, the tall oak tree stood firm, proud of its strength. Beside it, the bamboo bent and swayed with the wind. The oak mocked the bamboo. You are weak, always bowing down. But when the storm grew fierce, the oak snapped and fell to the ground, while the bamboo, though bent, survived. This simple fable holds a profound message. Strength is not always about resistance, but about flexibility. Life will bring storms, conflict, loss, change, disappointment. If we resist too rigidly, insisting on control, we may break. But if we can bend, adapt, and flow, we survive and even grow stronger. In modern life, this is resilience. Think of people who lose everything in a crisis, but somehow rebuild with grace. They are like bamboo, flexible, yet unbroken. Or think of times when plans fail, but by adjusting course, new opportunities appear. The bamboo teaches us that humility and adaptability are forms of true strength. It also teaches patience. Bamboo grows slowly at first, building roots unseen. Only later does it rise quickly, tall and steady. In the same way, our growth may be invisible for years. But if we keep nourishing our roots with learning, discipline, and self-care, when the time is right, we will stand tall. These final stories of wolves, of monks, of bamboo, bring us back to the same core wisdom. Our inner world is shaped not by what happens, but by how we meet it. We choose which wolf to feed. We choose whether to keep carrying burdens. We choose whether to break like the oak or bend like the bamboo. And in those choices lies our freedom. These stories remind us of something simple yet profound. Suffering is part of life, but we always have a choice in how we respond. We don't have to carry anger. We don't have to drown in grief. And we don't have to judge life too quickly as good or bad. With awareness, we can walk more lightly, even through storms. If any of these lessons touch your heart, I invite you to carry them into your own day and see how they change the way you feel, even in small moments. And if you found value here, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who might need these reminders, and leave a comment about which story spoke to you the most. I'd love to hear your reflections. And of course, if you'd like to keep walking this path together, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories of wisdom. Until next time, may you find peace in each step and sweetness even in life's challenges.